Welcome to A Gay A NonGay. I'm James Barr. I'm gay.
Yes, I'm Dan. I'm non-gay.
Do you ever get tired of saying that?
No.
I do. It's exhausting, isn't it? Just
give it a rest.
Gay. Thanks. So we start every episode with a question from the non-gays.
Yes.
This one's actually a question from your mate.
This is from Nick in Solihull.
And Nick wants to know if Dan has ever gone gay for hay.
Yes.
Have you ever gone gay for hay? What does gay for hay mean? I know what gay for pay is.
What does that mean?
That means being gay for pay.
Right.
So brokestraightboys.com, one of my favorite websites. Obviously they pay straight boys to be gay.
Obviously.
Although it's dubious as to whether or not they are actually straight.
Yeah.
And I'm going to need to see some straight ID. But yeah.
Well, going gay.
Those gays that look too groomed for me.
So
they're not straight.
It's a little bit similar, I suppose. It's like it's pretending to be gay to get somewhere to live.
Oh, hay as in sleep.
Yeah.
Put your head down.
Yeah. And now I've come up with this concept. I've come up with the moniker for it, rather.
Right.
I'm quite pleased with it, actually.
Yeah. So this is you're taking credit for gay for hay.
Yeah. Well, I mean, literally, I googled it. There's no mention of it, but I thought,
great.
It's a fantastic way of explaining this particular situation.
Pretending to be gay for hay.
Yeah. Have you? Well,
I don't know how I feel about that.
Really?
Well, who's done that? Why would you do that? Why would Nick want to do that?
God knows. I think he's saying, "Oh, this estate agent's gay. Maybe I should go gay for hay."
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he jests, obviously, but
does he?
Well, I don't know. I mean, everyone's got their price, haven't they?
Would you? What's yours?
A 2-bed flat in Solihull.
Right. So you'd go gay for hay?
Well, probably. Well, everyone's got their price, haven't they?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. Everyone's got their price.
In this context, I don't really understand. How gay are you going to go?
Well, what am I getting?
Okay, you're getting a 2-bedroom house in London.
Ultimately, that is we're blurring the lines, I suppose, between going gay for hay and going gay for pay, because that's both of them, right?
I'm not sure, but say the estate agent's got a few different options, and you're like, okay, you're going to pretend to be gay to get the property.
Well, in my particular situation, I guess I'd say, obviously, I've got a long-term girlfriend, so I'd say this is the scenario.
You'd probably go buy to let.
Well, I'd like to see the offer.
I'm so confused.
I'd like to see what the offer on the table was.
Originally, when I thought you were suggesting this, I thought it was to get a room in a house, like, in a shared property.
Yeah, I mean, any of the above.
Like to get someone's spare room.
Yeah, any of the above.
And I think that would be dangerous to pretend to be gay for hay in that situation.
Why?
Because quite a lot of friends of mine have got tenants who they've had sex with.
Right.
So I like when they came to view the property,
they shagged them.
They also then ended up sleeping with the landlord.
Right.
That kind of situation. That happens a lot, I think, in the gay community.
Does it?
And then beyond that, I feel as though housemates that are both gay could potentially also end up sleeping together. I've lived with people that I've rented from, that I've slept with before.
But hang on. I mean, that's interesting by itself. But if one is pretending to be gay for hay, it doesn't follow that they're going to sleep with the living landlord.
I mean, that's true.
They've got agency to say no. I don't want to do that.
Fair,
right?
Absolutely, of course, consent. But at the same time, I'm just assuming most gay people are going to sleep with each other. That's terrible.
Yeah,
but that is also probably about 75% likely to be true.
Is it?
Gays everyone just sleeps with each other.
Have you slept with Gregory out there?
No, I haven't slept with Gregory out there. He's like 30 years older than me.
Right, but you're into that. I don't know.
Why am I being exposed?
I don't know. Anyway, but the question is, have I ever gone gay for hay? No, I haven't.
But you would. Everyone's got their price.
I'd like to see what the offer on the table was.
But here, again, this is the issue. I don't recommend it. I know you're not asking for advice. I don't recommend being gay for hay because you don't know where it might end up. And yes, you're right. Of course, you can say no if it was to get to a more like a sexual encounter. You can say no at that point. But I just think if you get that far, it's a bit late. Obviously, you can say no, but it's like, well...
Would you go straight for late?
What does that mean?
I don't know. It means getting someone to stay late at night.
Would I go straight to get a property or like to convince someone or something? In a way, I guess I have when I'm ordering I'm at a bar and I'm like, oh, can I get a wine, please?
Yeah. Right.
If I lower my voice, I suppose that is me being straight.
Yeah. Okay.
You're not going to make this rhyme.
Well, I will. It's going to take me probably a week.
Going straight to avoid hate. Is actually what's happening in that scenario.
Yeah.
It's not because I'm trying to get anything. It's just I'm trying to survive.
Yeah.
So I do go straight to avoid hate, but I don't really do it to benefit me. And here's the other thing, right? I wasn't saying this earlier because I was finding the conversation kind of funny. It is also offensive to be asking this question, Nick.
Right.
It's offensive to pretend to be gay to get somewhere in life that you shouldn't be. Like, if a gay person is lucky enough to get a room because they're gay and the person renting that property feels safer having them around, that's because they're gay. Like, you shouldn't be taking up space. You shouldn't pretend to be gay to be somewhere. Absolutely not.
All right, well, thanks for the...
and it's fine for me to pretend to be straight because I'm trying to survive.
Yeah.
But I think you shouldn't be pretending to be a minority. It's like asking me, would you pretend to be black to live in a house share or something? It's like, it's such a stupid question. Like, no, you should not. You should not do that. And yes, I'm equating...
How would you do that?
I know I'm equating two different ideas completely here, but that's not cool.
How would you do that, just out of interest?
How would I what? I wouldn't
pretend to be black.
Pretend to be black. Stop finding it funny. It's not funny.
Okay,
that is probably a thing people have done or do. Stop trying to use other people's identity to benefit yourself when you already have enough privilege.
Yes.
Nick from Solihull, who I presume is white.
Do you know who his landlord is?
You.
Yeah.
Great. So I have a question for you. I don't want you to feel triggered or accused of anything here because this isn't really like largely fired at you per se, but it is kind of because I think it's something that a lot of straight people or straight men seem to avoid.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Gisèle Pelicot and why haven't you spoken about it? And why in general do men seem to be pretty silent when it comes to this incredible trailblazing French icon?
There's quite a few questions there to deal with, but one at a time. How do I feel about it? Obviously, it's awful. It also carries the factor of what about it more than as opposed to the guy in New Orleans that just killed 20 plus people. Obviously, that's horrific, but it has less of the what the fuck factor to that. Like the logistics of what happened to her is enough to get your head around, let alone the despicable acts happening. Do you know what I mean? So obviously I think that, but I haven't posted about it per se. I don't post about a lot of things. I don't like being on my phone. I find even having my phone around, not on airport mode, stressful.
Yeah, but that's interesting, isn't it? Because I hear what you're saying there, but that does feel like a lazy argument to just say, oh, well, I don't post about everything.
Well, no, I'm not saying I don't post about everything. I don't post about anything, unfortunately.
Right. Okay. So you don't think you need to speak about it?
That's not what I said. I think the conversation needs to be had, but I don't think like isolating individuals and being like, why didn't you post about it is helpful.
Well, I see a lot of my female friends, queer and non-queer, saying, where are the straight men talking about this?
Yeah.
Why are straight men not posting about this?
Yeah.
Whereas all my gay friends and female friends that are active online and Instagram are sharing grid posts about the incredible things this woman is saying or has said in the court case and the triumph for women. And also just like, it just means so much in a world that's so full of hate right now. It means so much to hear Gisèle's story and to see the way she's dealt with it. And she is just, honestly, like as someone that suffered domestic abuse in a very different way, I see the way she's behaving and I idolize her. And I hate, obviously, what's happened to her. It's such an unimaginable horror. But the way that Gisèle has talked about shame and giving that back to the world and not accepting that to be hers, I think that resonates with everyone, regardless of their sexuality or gender. So it surprises me also that a lot of straight people are silent on it, straight men. And yes, your argument about, well, I don't personally post about anything anyway, is true. But you do also because you're on a podcast called A Gay A NonGay.
But this is the outlet that
Yes, but you also post clips from this podcast on your Instagram, so you are kind of active in the conversation. Yeah,
so this is the outlet that I have for those.
Okay, so I guess I could change the question. Why didn't you bring it up here then?
Well, I knew that fine. I mean, I knew that was a thing that would come up.
But again, like I'm not really asking you personally. I'm kind of asking you what your thoughts on straight men in general.
Fine. I'm just. Well, you asked a series of questions. So
no, I know, but I just think it's really interesting, and there's got to be a reason that a lot of straight men don't talk about it.
So I think the issue is if you're quick to comment on everything, then you dig yourself a hole when you don't comment or post about anything, but about this specific incident. This is, I think, is the caveat. Why are men that are quick to comment about other things not quick to comment about this? I don't think, for example, I should go to my dad and go, "Oh, you haven't mentioned this." Well, actually, we have had the discussion because it came on the news. But I'm not going to go to my dad or the guy behind the shop and go, why haven't you posted about this? But I probably would if they were constantly posting about other things that and offering their opinion, whether it's wanted or not. Do you know what I mean? I think that's the difference. So assuming that we're talking about people who are quick to offer their opinion on stuff, but are not silent on this, I think the problem is probably like a degree of like potential like guilt about maybe things that they have potentially done with women. I personally, I'm off the hook on that. I don't feel guilt about somebody, but I think a lot of straight people probably do think, oh yeah, I probably shouldn't have done that to that girl. Not on the scale and severity of this, but maybe, I don't know, like they've pursued a girl who wasn't interested for too long or something like that.
Okay.
Like,
so because they have some kind of guilt about what they may have done in the past.
Yeah.
That they've now learnt was wrong. They feel like they can't
and also
make a stand about things like this.
Yeah, and also I guess there's the risk if you're banging on and on about this, somebody is going to come out of the woodwork and say, well, hang on.
Well, that's definitely happened to me in terms of mental health, when people have said, how can you be talking about mental health being important when you damaged my mental health by doing X, Y, Z?
Right.
I've had people throw that shit at me, but it's like, well, none of us are perfect.
Yeah.
And obviously there's a scale of that. From perfect to completely deplorable, go to jail. But we shouldn't be trying to be perfect. We should just be trying to do better.
Yeah.
And so I guess it upsets me to think that there's a load of men out there that could easily be allies, but they're just being stubborn and going, well, actually, I'm a bit of a bad person because I did that, so I'm just going to step back from the situation and let the world burn. Like, what? No. What are you doing? Like, we need you as well. So you think there is a certain amount of straight men who are scared to say the right thing when it comes to women because they feel like they would get cancelled for something they did in the past. Like they don't want to put a spotlight on them.
I think so.
That's horrible.
Or they're just going to get a hard time for whatever reason. Because every time you post about anything now, someone's going to give you a hard time, aren't they?
I guess it depends how many followers you have.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Or if people hate you enough.
I think that's why I do, yeah. But it's difficult because there's always somebody's always going to say, why haven't you done this? Why aren't you posting about this? Do you know what I mean? There's always somebody ready to say that about something.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like J.K. Rowling, right?
Yeah.
J.K. Rowling is now literally a transphobic account.
Yeah.
Like the only thing J.K. Rowling is interested in talking about is either her own work or being transphobic.
Yeah.
And so that's confusing because if she really cared about women's rights, she'd also be talking about the amount of domestic abuse occurring in the UK, male to female violence. 1 in 3 people in Australia suffer from domestic abuse. That's largely women and very largely queer people. I know Australia's statistics more than anywhere else right now because I'm going there and my show's about domestic abuse. In case that was weird. So, like, it's enormously high, and yet she just stays in her lane discussing how less than 1% of the population in the UK that are trans are trying to take over the world and destroy women's rights. It's literally insane. That then, to me, looks hypocritical. But when something like this, which is a massive global news story and a pretty big moment for women, and I would say queer people too, it's just confusing when you're so invested in something and your whole network is just silent. Everyone around you isn't interested or doesn't seem to be interested about it.
Is that what you're saying?
I guess so. I think it's odd that for all the people I follow that share all sorts of shit, whether it's memes or clips of themselves or whatever, it's like, why aren't you also posting that?
People are quite silent on the New Orleans attack that happened.
Okay. I didn't really know about that until you mentioned it, and then it's ringing a bell that I saw something in the news. Right.
But that's objectively a more horrific event.
I don't know why it's different, but I don't have a touch point on that. I don't know anyone that lives in New Orleans. I've never visited New Orleans. So for me, that it doesn't enter my psyche in the same way that this situation, the trial in France did, where Gisèle last year won and all these horrendous men got sent down. To me, that means a lot because so often rape cases, abuse cases never end up at trial and never get a guilty outcome. There's never enough evidence. There's never enough trust in the people that tell these stories. And as someone that survived an abusive relationship, I have a real touch point on that. And I'm like, wow, that woman is amazing.
Yeah.
So that's why I feel more passionately about it than I would say a terror attack, because I wasn't there. Whereas with this, I feel like I am there.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm asking about straight men too. You are sort of there involved because you know a woman that's been treated like that. You will know dozens, if not hundreds of women in your life that you just interact with on a daily basis that have had abusive men do awful shit to them.
Yeah.
So I feel, should be more vocal about that.
In what? Give me an example of something that I should be doing that I'm not.
No, I mean you in general. I mean straight men in general should be more vocal about that, because women, they're your mother.
Yeah.
Like she's we all know her.
Yeah.
We all know Gisèle. We all know Gisèle Pelicot. So why are we not all celebrating her incredible bravery? I think that's the point. And it's fair to say, well, we don't have to talk about everything. Yeah, sure you don't, but you know women like her.
I don't know, honestly. I think other than the reason that I gave, and I suppose a lot of straight men are probably concerned that in their back history they've done some stuff they probably shouldn't have done. So it's easier for them just to keep quiet, isn't it? Like, let's imagine you're Greg Wallace, for example. Are you going to comment on this, or are you going to? Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
that's a really good question. I mean, he should, because he should be saying, well, I'm not like these men.
Well, he's been cancelled, hasn't he? So he doesn't have
for being supposedly dodgy with women. But he should stand up and say, this is awful, what happened to this woman, and I'm so happy for her.
But he's not going to do that, because he's been cancelled. But even if he hadn't, everybody's going to jump down his throat and say, well, you did this, you did that, allegedly.
Right, yeah. So, well, I think you've got to say it with your chest. If you haven't done something...
Yeah.
And you believe yourself to be innocent, and he does, I think. Yeah. Then say it with your chest, mate.
All right. Well, thanks.
I didn't expect to be talking about Greg Wallace.
But if you think of that as the extreme example, then if you divide Greg Wallace by 100, then there's probably blokes.
Oh, don't get me wrong. Like, we could talk about Pink News here as well. Like, the gays aren't innocent.
Why? What's Pink News done?
The CEO and his husband of Pink News. In trouble. I don't want to bring that energy here, but you know, like, we're not all innocent. Gay people aren't innocent. Yeah. Like, everyone is problematic. There's a problematic person in every community, in every family, in every group. Like, so gay people aren't innocent. I'm just saying it's interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting.
It's interesting. And I love that. The Pink News thing is awful. And what I find awful about it, though, is that immediately upon that news hitting, all of the far right people are like, see, told you, gay people are awful. Look at them. They're all paedophiles. They're all this. They're all that.
What have they done?
It's hard to talk about because I don't know the facts. The BBC did a big takedown. Yeah. Saying that they had various complaints for being sexually abusive to staff members or junior staff members. Right, okay. I'd rather you Google it than me tell you verbatim what happened, but that's basically the tea. And then everyone's like, see, gay people are awful. They're all groomers. Yeah. And that's just not true, is it? Because if you look at other CEOs in other companies across the UK, if you did a broad sweeping search of how many CEOs at any one given point have been abusing junior staff members sexually or not, I'm pretty sure you'd find a lot of people. And a lot of them, the majority, would be straight men. Yeah. But because that's just so normalized, no one gives a shit. Yeah. When it's Pink News, it's like, whoa, look at these people who are meant to be amazing and looking out for trans people. Yeah. Look at all these articles they've written supporting trans people. And now we have actual proof that people that support trans people are grooming assholes. Yeah. And that is so upsetting. Yeah. And totally irresponsible journalism. But then I'm not going to stop freedom of speech. Like, it is a true story, supposedly. So, of course, it needs to come out. It's just not fair. It's not weighted correctly. Yeah. Where are all the other stories about dodgy straight CEOs? Why is no one interested in that? Why is no one talking about that? Yeah. Like, I want to know that the CEO of a butcher's in Solihull has been abusive as well. I need to know all the facts so I can judge everybody by the same standard. Yeah. But because they just want to get They just want to win over gay. I mean, I'm actually very annoyed about that.
Yeah. I guess
you can tell.
Yeah,
I'm upset, and it annoys me that the BBC would do that.
I guess the counterpoint is that you're always going to come for somebody who is. It's a much juicier story, isn't it? Like objectively, if the person running the organization, if that organization is claiming to do X, Y, Z.
Yes, and that's not fair, is it?
The person running it is basically allegedly doing the opposite.
Yeah.
You've got to say that's more interesting than the CEO of the Butchers and Soda Hole.
Does the Butchers even have a CEO? Who knows? But yes, I do understand clickbait.
Like they've set themselves.
I know how clickbait
but they've
works.
set themselves up. I'm not saying that. Well, they're sort of They have set themselves up for that to happen.
Not really.
It's like if you.
It's not like they did a load of articles about how you shouldn't groom, younger members of staff. They weren't doing journalism about that. Their members of staff were writing journalism about queer people and trying to change the narrative about trans people in the UK.
Yeah.
That's very important and vital. So, yeah, of course, people want to come for them.
Yeah.
On the far right. I understand that. But at the same time, it's not like those articles now don't mean anything.
No, but I'm just explaining why.
Because they were never talking about that particular issue.
It's just explaining why somebody would.
I get it. I don't need you to mansplain, to dansplain clickbait to me. I know how the world works. I know what the news cycle wants. It's just frustrating.
Yeah. It's not good PR for gays.
That's, I suppose, what my point is. It's like, why is this such a bad PR thing for gays?
Yeah.
When the president of the United States of America is literally a sex offender.
Yeah.
I don't really know what my point was there, because I probably said some things wrong about the pink news thing. I didn't really think about what I was going to say before I said it, and I've never spoken about it at all until that particular moment.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. I probably said some shit wrong, and I'm okay with that. If I did say something wrong, I apologize. I'd love to know what everyone else thinks, though.
Yeah. If James said something wrong, be sure to post about it, obviously.